is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Just gone midnight. It is Monday, the 2nd of May. It's now been 3.5 years since the medical use of cannabis was legalised in the UK after campaigns by the families of children with severe epilepsy. Indeed, only this weekend, a woman from Warwickshire says her son has been kept seizure-free for the past 2 years while taking medical cannabis. Alfie Deacon is 10 years old. He was first given the drug in the Netherlands in early 2018, and it was his mother Hannah's petition to the government which led to the law changing here. But Hannah Deacon has also highlighted how lots of people up and down the country who could benefit from medical cannabis, like her son, aren't being given access to it. She says many doctors remain sceptical of the benefits, despite these success stories like her family's one. And if the NHS doctor says no, the other ways of getting hold of medical cannabis are to go private, which can cost up to £2,000 every month, importing it from abroad, or even growing it yourself. And that, of course, is a criminal offence. And all of that means that many people who could have their pain eased significantly and their lives made much more bearable aren't having that happen. Why do you think this is happening? And if you've tried to get a prescription yourself for chronic pain or another serious condition, how did you get on? 0345 6060 973. Joining me now is Dr. Mikael Sodergren, who is Managing Director and also the Academic Lead at Sapphire Medical Clinics, which is the UK's first medical cannabis clinic. Thanks for your time, Michael. So why is it so hard to get an NHS prescription for this medicine?
So I think the answer is twofold. And I mean, the law changed almost 4 years ago. And unfortunately, little progress has been made on NHS allowing prescriptions for a variety of conditions for free. So that hasn't changed much. There's a select group of patients that can access these medicines on the NHS, but for the majority, it's not possible. In the private sector, however, I think it is getting easier, and clinics like mine have been seeing big increases in patient numbers, and fortunately, due to the cost of the medicines coming down, it is more affordable for patients to access these medicines in the private route. But I think that the long-term solution has got to be that we need to gather more evidence that shows that these medicines work for a number of different conditions, and then present that to NICE, which is the committee that decides cost effectiveness on the NHS, so that they can be freely available for all. But that is ongoing, and that's one of the reasons why we set up in the clinic the UK Medical Cannabis Registry. So all of our patients are enrolled in this and contribute to this data collection to hopefully help more people access these medicines in the future.
So NHS doctors, they have the legal ability to prescribe this medicine, but they're not doing it. Are they not doing it because they feel uncomfortable because it's allied to an illegal drug, or do they? Or what is the reason that it is so difficult to get?
Yeah, no, it's not that. So NHS, any doctor who's on the specialist register can prescribe medical cannabis, but it can only be reimbursed on the NHS for a few conditions that have been approved by NICE. And, that's 3 conditions, a small number of people. And outside of that, NHS doctors can prescribe, in an NHS hospital, but it won't be reimbursed. So the CCGs will not pay for it. So right. Unfortunately, that means that the vast majority of patients have to access these medicines through the private route in clinics like Sapphire Medical.
And what are those 3 conditions that you just described?
Yeah, so the first is childhood epilepsy. So there's 2 conditions, and they're fully reimbursed. But those 2 childhood epilepsy conditions are only 30% of just the childhood epilepsy condition. So there's lots of children who don't qualify. So that's one. The second is multiple sclerosis, a subset of multiple sclerosis patients. And the third is chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. For patients who experience that, they can also access these medicines.
And when you talk about these medicines, people, medical cannabis, people, I'm sure, would be thinking that people would be smoking it at home. So how does it get delivered?
Yeah, no, so the majority of patients, there are a number of different administration forms that medical cannabis can be prescribed in. At Sapphire, we prescribe a lot of oils, which means that patients take a little pipette and administer the oils under the tongue. But others who need acute relief of pain are prescribed flower that they can vaporize. We can't prescribe anything that's smoked, obviously, but we can prescribe medicines that are vaporized, and that's one of the examples.
And does this stuff get you high, or have you managed to take that bit out?
No, it does contain THC, which is the compound that does get you high in the traditional sense of the word, but the doses that we prescribe are not designed to induce euphoria or make you feel high. They're designed to combat a range of different symptoms for the variety of conditions that we treat. And so the majority of our patients, in fact, I'd say almost all, do not feel high. They feel relief of symptoms for their conditions. So
are other countries as restrictive then on the kind of conditions that are applicable to prescribe these medicines?
No. So, for instance, in Germany, they are much less restrictive, and they have the biggest medical cannabis market in Europe, where doctors can prescribe for a range of different conditions, and they get reimbursed in the healthcare insurance system, so patients don't even have to pay. And there's a variety of, different regulatory systems in between, such as Italy, and France are about to start the medical cannabis prescribing system. But Germany is probably the most advanced in Europe.
And America has been doing this for a good long while, haven't they?
Yeah, America absolutely have. And also, Canada have, Israel, Australia are way ahead of us. So we're not really pioneering in that sense. We're just probably following the rest of the world.
And do you think that it is allied, this sort of what appears to be reluctance on the part of the authorities in this country to allow greater prescription of these drugs? Do you think it's allied to a concern or a similar reluctance to actually contemplate the legalization of cannabis for recreational use?
No, I don't think so at all. And I think that the way we're approaching it in the UK is pretty sensible. We need robust evidence to ensure that the medicines are effective. And after that, we need to ensure that they're cost effective, like any other medicine that we use on the NHS. And so we're just going through that, going through that path now. And I'm sure that we'll see over the next 5 to 10 years, many, many more conditions that'll be freely available in the NHS with medical cannabis.
Well, that's odd then. 5 to 10 years. That if you're suffering from a condition that would be relieved by medical cannabis, that's an eternity. So why is it have the Germans, with their excellent health service, declared that these drugs are applicable and safe, and yet we insist in this country that we don't know if they are or not?
Well, it's a good question. I think the answer is that they have the way that it's reimbursed in Germany is through an insurance-based system. Here we have a social healthcare system in which we decide which medicines to prescribe to the general population based on cost effectiveness. And we have to go through that process here, whereas they haven't had to do that in Germany.
But if you're the parent of a child, or you yourself have a condition that you know will be improved by using medical cannabis, then the cost, really, it's neither here nor there, is it? You want that drug and you want it straight away. So what kind of money are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think has improved since legalization. Now in our clinic, your average chronic pain patient, which is our most common condition that we treat, they pay about £4.80 per day for their consultation and treatment, which of course represents a financial barrier to many people, but it's much, much less than it was when it was legalized 3.5 years ago.
Right. Well, that's the price of a cup of coffee and a bun.
Exactly.
So it doesn't seem to be reason enough for the medical organisation, the authorities in this country, to actually refuse it. So, I know I've been getting at this question, but you keep batting it back at me. But there does seem to be a certain dragging of the feet, and my suspicion is that it's allied with the reluctance to actually do anything about legalising cannabis.
Yeah, no, I appreciate a lot of people feel that way, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it's being treated like any other medicine that we evaluate on the NHS and in the UK healthcare system. And unfortunately, when medical cannabis was legalized, we just didn't have that data to back up a lot of the different conditions that it looks like medical cannabis can be used to treat.
Now, this is another example, though, isn't it, of the difference between the medicines and the medical treatment that is available to you if you've got money. Because if you're relying on the NHS, then the answer is probably going to be no. But if you've got cash, then the doctor will see you now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, right now, there is a financial barrier for, the main condition that people seek treatment for is chronic pain. And that is not available on the NHS. So there is, unfortunately, a financial barrier. I'm hopeful that, it won't be long until we produce the data, which we're contributing to from Sapphire Medical, to be able to convince NICE that it should be available for everyone.
So to be clear, if you are a private patient and if you go to your organisation, in fact, Sapphire Medical Clinics, then you can get a prescription for what ails you and walk out with that product the very same day. Is that right?
No, that's right. You don't even have to visit the clinic. The vast majority of patients use telemedicine now and have the medicines delivered to their front door.
At a cost of £4.80 a day. Is that still the same price?
Yeah, that's right.
Is it ironic, actually, that this country is the largest producer of medical cannabis in the world?
Yeah, and that's also because we are probably GW, which is the biggest medical cannabis company in the world, is a UK company, which is something that we should be clearly very proud of. But I think that it's part of the reason that we are the biggest producer of medical cannabis is because we have GW within the UK.
What do you think of people who have a condition that they feel is likely to be made better by the application of cannabis, either through what they've read or through their experience, and having got nowhere with the NHS, they're actually starting to grow their own grass, or they're buying it from a drug dealer and self-medicating, as it were?
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. And, there are financial barriers associated with going down the medical route. And there's a YouGov poll about 3 years ago that indicated that there was 1.4 million people in the UK who used cannabis to treat a medically diagnosed condition. And so I can completely understand that many of those don't have the means to access it down the medical route. And if it helps them, then it's understandable that they do whatever they need to get their medicine.
And if there's 1.4 million people who are going outside the law in order to get the medicines that they need, how many people do you know are getting it within the law?
Well, the problem is that there's no national data set around the prescriptions of medical cannabis, but this month alone, that we had 500 new patients at Sapphire Medical Clinics, and there are many other clinics around the UK. So it's growing month on month, and hopefully becoming more accessible month on month.
And just finally, what are the major conditions that would benefit from the medicinal cannabis?
Well, so at Sapphire we see about 60% of chronic pain patients, and then about 20 to 30% psychiatry patients, and that's anxiety is a big part, post-traumatic stress disorder, etc. And then there's about 10% of neurology patients, that's multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, etc.
Interesting. I know I did say finally, but you did say psychiatry, so I'm just going to ask you about that. It's interesting, isn't it, that one of the reasons that people are, they say they're reluctant to legalise cannabis is because of its effects on people's mental health.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a really good question, and I'm happy you asked it, because the people who experience mental health problems from cannabis almost exclusively do so from high THC products, synthetic cannabinoids, what you've heard the term spice, etc. These are so far away from the medicines that we prescribe at the clinic that I don't think you can make comparisons. We do not see the same problems with medical patients that you see from people who consume these really high THC products.
All right, thanks for that, Michael. That's Dr. Mikael Sodergren, who is Managing Director, also the academic lead at Sapphire Medical Clinics, which is the UK's first medical cannabis clinic.